new tape?
Yes, new tape, yeah.
Albert Speer has become a radio and TV star.
I would say it must be very far away from a documentary. The farther away, the better it is.
The object is to have the audience identify themselves with you in the first 5 minutes of the film.
Yeah. I was 29 years old, and I really would have sold my soul to Mephisto.
I'm just saying, Andrew, I think that Speer is whitewashed. He knew that they were being exterminated.
Yes, but that's in the film.
No, I don't think so.
I had 14 million people working for me.
But I thought you're prepared to admit you knew about Auschwitz.
There are a few minor things we should talk over. The script is getting more difficult, you know.
Yes. I don't think the facts matter so much.
No.
Tribunal.
I can always say, it's a film, it's not the truth.
Reconnaît-il certains des visiteurs du camp de Mauthausen?
Père.
Hi.
Welcome to another episode of Tzuzamen.
Hi, Tzili.
Tzipi.
Hi. And we are here to enrich ourselves. And every time we meet somebody, we are like, whoa. And today we have one of the, I cannot even start to express my admiration, not only to the subject matter that she's doing, but the almost a mission and her curiosity and really trying to break through a incredible, complicated, difficult subject matter, and yet she's doing it in such an intriguing. I can go on for an hour now.
But she's Vanessa Lapa.
Yeah, we didn't
first
say her
of
name
all.
yet.
Hi,
So it's
Vanessa.
Hi, Vanessa.
And Vanessa and Tomer Eliav just won the Ophir Prize, which is the Israeli Oscar for their documentary of Albert Speer.
Right. And she was in a very good film festivals, including Telluride, which is really one of the most prestigious. Wow, Telluride? Wow.
No, this is
Ophir.
This is Ophir. I'm sorry. You see, I am like, I got Ophir also, but it was...
the most important one is the one you get home, always.
Right.
That's the most important.
It feels extremely encouraging, and I'm so grateful, and it's so moving. I couldn't imagine the emotion.
You know, I think you should have gotten two, because one for the film and one for the road. The road for this film was so bumpy.
But you know,
but amazing.
Tzili, we never know what happened before. It's
No, I
only
know.
what on the screen. And on the screen, you can see not just the professionalism, but the amount of material.
But it's not only that, the amount of struggle
that
Vanessa and Tomer went through and never gave up, because she insisted that this movie needs to come out. Vanessa, we talk about the Holocaust. We talk about the machinery, the human machinery around the Adolf Hitler, who knew how to choose the best people around him, and I wish they would use their abilities to invent good things, but
especially with what we're going to the last film, Speer, who wanted just to be an architect, right?
But I want to talk about both films, because the first one was on Himmler, based on Himmler diaries, and this one was based on Speer. And just tell us a little bit, how did you get to the whole thing? Why you nailing this subject, and so deep and so strong, and eventually so good?
Well, the truth is that both subjects came to me. The first one came to me through Leon, Zichrono Livracha.
Tzili's husband, late husband.
Leon, my late husband, owned Himmler's diaries, and which later on Vanessa used it to do the movie.
because we had a common acquaintance, Nati Laor, a professor at the Tel Aviv University, whom Leon knew and I knew. And one day he gave me a call and he said, there are those diaries, would it interest you?
Right.
And inside of me, I was just being polite because you don't say no to Professor Laor. So I went to meet Leon and Chaim Rosenthal and this box full of diaries and letters and photographs. And then I couldn't say no because of the curiosity. So this is for the Himmler film. And at a screening at the Film Forum of The Decent One, after the premiere in New York in 2014, a man came to me and told me and asked me if I have more research material about the correspondence between Heinrich Himmler and Albert Speer. And I said yes, and he wanted to meet the next day. And I politely tried to avoid it, and I managed to avoid it for 8 months. But then Tomer Eliav, the sound designer.
We're going to meet later on, yes.
Exactly. He organized a meeting with Stanley, and then Stanley told us about this 1971 Paramount project that he really wants me to try to dig into it and to understand what happened there. So both stories came to me.
Yeah, but so what was, I always ask myself, and actually when I dare anybody else, especially my students, what was your intent? What was the basic engine or the basic intent, a through line or question that propelled you? Because that is like really a Sisyphus kind of journey.
I think that, you know, the curiosity, the responsibility, but, you know, it's not very modest to say responsibility because I didn't know what I will find in the writings and I didn't know what I will hear in the recordings. I think that probably mainly it is the emotional and intellectual need to understand why, how. Maybe if I'll dig into the private lives and minds of those people, I will be able to understand how is something like the Holocaust possible? Where is this evil coming from? What is behind this ideology that apparently brought, you know, the people of Goethe to go behind a leader with an ideology? So
yes.
this,
I think Goethe also was speaking about we all have to be the same, right? I think so, if I remember well.
But Vanessa, but can you please just tell the viewers a few words about Decent Man and then a few words about Speer, and then we'll take it from there.
So the idea for both of the films was to have both of the characters, Himmler and Speer, revealing themselves to the audience, not to use any external narration and not to use talking heads. And the idea came from the fact that the content is so rich that I felt that it's a waste of, you know, even a minute to use a narrator or a talking head because it is self-explanatory. They are unveiling themselves with what they said and with what Speer said and with what Himmler wrote. You know, what is stronger than someone revealing himself? Mm-hmm. It's not judgmental. What you see is what you get. It's all 100% historically accurate and correct. So this was the cinematic challenge. And I really wanted to have them revealing themselves to the audience.
But so what did you learn about evenness? Because I don't know if I don't think you mentioned it in the film. Hannah Arendt, you know, she was talking about banality
and of
evilness.
What
did you find out? Because I'm really intrigued. I'm really curious all the time. especially in Germany, how such a culture produced this kind of monster, and then you go into the personality, specific people. So what did it take you in terms of understanding about evil?
Having more questions, no answers at all. What I think I understood, unfortunately, is that this evilness and this ideology is so mediocre, so empty. There is nothing. I kept hoping to find something intelligent that probably I won't agree with, but it's intelligence, it's challenging. It's so empty. It's pure hate, fear, nationalism. I'm frustrated that I don't have answers. The more the years and the research went along, the less answers I had and the more questions.
Why? Is it because, or is it also because that once you come close to those people, and in a way they become round character, they have a family, their parents, Speer and how he felt about his wife and everything. Is it that by showing these sides of them, you almost give them a moment of grace? Or it's more puzzling because we have our own beliefs that, humanity is one thing, and what part it plays?
I think, the way you chose to show them from the human point of view and how inhuman they were and how they took it, to the next level, because you really, in Himmler's voice, you find his diaries. Nobody has anybody's diaries to see step by step how this person becomes becomes a monster, and he thinks he's a decent man and everything is okay. And Vanessa helps him to prove it in a very human way to become the most inhuman person. And also with Speer, he talks honestly about his motives, and she doesn't bother him. She allows him to use it, but she does it to the extreme. So you cannot stand it, but you're part of the process. And there's something very special about the way you show things and the way you look at things. Can you tell us a little bit about your point of view and why you choose the way you choose, and how you still can be, you can watch the film, doesn't matter how much you're discussed, but you want to watch more and you see the whole story.
But maybe you take 1 minute before to tell again what each man function was in the Hitler machine.
Right.
They will know.
Heinrich Himmler was the Reichsführer SS, and he was in charge of the SS and the gas chambers. And Albert Speer was Hitler's architect, and in 1942, he became Minister of Armaments and War Production. Because of his so close relationship with Hitler, Hitler decided to appoint him as Minister of Armaments and War Production. And Speer had those amazing production abilities. So he managed almost by himself to prolong the war for 2.5 years, when he was intelligent enough to know that the war was lost after the defeat in Stalingrad. So how many human lives, even German lives, German soldiers, were lost only because Speer was this master producer and he prolonged the war. So this is...
Yeah, so now if you can answer Tzili's question.
And it comes back to what you said, Tzipi. What is so puzzling is what Tzili just said, the human side and the fact that they are human beings like you and me. And I strongly believe that one needs to recognize this and acknowledge this. And they made choices. Mm-hmm. They are not monsters. They made monstrous choices. But they are human beings. And what is so puzzling is that it's, maybe with Himmler a little bit less easier to identify, and with Speer more easy to identify because of his looks and his quotes and the language he's speaking. But this identification is so important in order for us, to be aware that we all need to make choices, whether it is personal choices or political choices, and let us think twice before we make a choice.
If you would fictionalize it, I mean, I know that there was an attempt to do a Hollywood picture about Speer, but forget Hollywood. Let's just talk about drama. If you are to write a fiction, I mean, tell the story, biopic kind of, what difference there will be between the documentary and the script that you will write if it was like a fictional, like in the form of a feature film?
If and it's not my profession, but if I was to write or to guide the fictional film, it would be 100% similar to the documentary film, and not based on Speer memoirs where everything is a lie. So I think that what is mind-blowing is that until today, yearly 2,000 copies of his book are sold.
How many?
2,000 yearly. And, let's be 100% democratic, what I am, and everyone has the right to express himself. But parallel, a book like this needs to have a preface, please, to be put in a historical context.
Right.
We have a good friend, I don't know if you heard about her, Goren Agmon, and Goren Agmon wrote a play.
She's a playwright.
She's a playwright,
Yeah.
and wrote a play about Speer. And I remember talking to her, and because she what?
I met her at Tzili place in Pesach just before the Corona, if I'm
Right,
not wrong.
but because it's a playwriting, which is in a way like writing a feature film in terms of drama and what you're looking. She really was looking at his childhood and going all the way back to different elements of his upbringing, his relationship with his mother, who favored his brother, who was killed, but the son that was killed was a good one, right? So he had to live with it. And the fact that he has, I don't know how much he acknowledged it, but he had weaknesses that she tried to understand the weaknesses. And when I'm looking at your film, I was trying to see how much he's aware of his own weaknesses.
I think Vanessa just pointed his strength more than his weakness.
Yeah, but we have to look at both. We have to look at both.
The outcome is usually from the beginning and from motherhood and childhood and mothers. But the way he looked at things and the way Vanessa showed it is he saw himself in a good way.
Oh, yeah.
So, and that's what
I wish I would look at myself as handsome as he thinks he was a good looking after the prison even. At least I'm still good looking. Oh my God.
And I agree with Tzili, and I understand what you are saying, Tzipi, and I agree with you, but we all have our daddy issues and mother issues and our luggage, whatever it is. And we make choices, either we get to therapy or we're trying to, to make the best of ourselves, or we are choosing to be a Heinrich Himmler or an Albert Speer. So to have a difficult and heavy past or childhood, to me, is not an excuse, not for them.
I agree with you. There is an age when we cannot put our weaknesses on the way we were brought up, and we have to make choices as adults. So I agree with you. I think it's also very interesting, your way of doing documentaries. You are looking at the person almost at the black of the eyes and you are not going, to different aspects that you cannot really see. Somebody can tell you, the story of his childhood, but so I agree with you, because there is a contradiction that on one hand is more, I don't know if he's trying to say that he doesn't forgive himself, right? That's
Correct.
what he tried to say.
That he will never be, that he will forever feel guilty.
Yeah,
I don't believe
is it a manipulation to make us forgive him?
You just want to try to come out clean, but I don't think he really means it.
So,
Professor Moshe Zimmerman from the Hebrew University
yes,
told me in the beginning of the research that he remembers going to Heidelberg with students of the Hebrew University. And the first thing that Speer was saying, and all the students were like with very difficult questions and very angry. And Speer was starting with a 10-minute monologue saying, I did very bad. I did mistakes. I deserved my sentence. Every day I sat in prison. So within 10 minutes, he managed at least to soften the students, because this was his approach.
yes.
Did
But
he
I know,
mean
yeah.
that? No.
But it's very interesting, Tzili, because you are so saying not judging him, you actually bear, you put in front of us, this man, and you let us look at him, and you give us the choice, actually, whether to believe him or not. But there is no escape from the truth. Do you know what I mean? You actually made the truth so clear.
I agree with you. But there are, for example, 2 weeks ago after a screening in Tel Aviv, there were 2 women who came out crying and screaming at me. How can you show them, those people, as human beings? They were monsters. They shouldn't, no one should make a film about them. They were monsters. They are not human beings.
I'm sure they're not the only one, but the fact that you chose this angle, I think it's very important, because this is what makes it even worse. And it just a little bit, it takes it to the extreme, but I think it's important. But Vanessa, I wanted to...
I just want to make an admission. I want to tell something which is contradictory to everything I said. So when I teach screenwriting at NYU, first class, I talked about what I think about screenwriting and all the aspects and stuff, and then I do mention moment of grace. And I say, you should give a moment of grace to your character. Even he is a terrible man. And then I say, except Hitler. You want to give to Hitler, go to another class, not in my class. Yet look how I'm talking to you about the way you, and then of course what you said about that woman. So I don't know, it's really interesting. How come I tell my student, but not about Hitler? What?
There's something that you cannot stop, and I think the younger generation is far away from those events, and the younger you are, you're further away. And I think it's important to allow them to talk about it, and I think it's important to understand that to some extent you can let go of certain things, because time is doing its own thing, and it's important to let time to chew up, the subject in a different way. But I wanted to go, Vanessa, to the side effects of the whole thing, because through the preparation of both films, you really faced all kind of reactions and the realities, like with Himmler's daughter, and with the help to the Nazis in jail, and the condition of all kind of films and materials that you found out. There are many things that nobody talks about, to see what's the effect on other people and how do they survive these times, and how do they handle these times on many levels, either from the German side or the Nazi side, or technical side or Jewish side. Can you share with us a little bit, few anecdotes about the process from that point of view?
I mean, the side effects are huge, and they are in all our lives. You know, we as Jews and the Germans, they bear it forever. You know, what I tried to do with the Decent One, and I hope with Speer and both of them, is trying to change the narrative. The dialogue shall be different. The Jews shall change their position of the ultimate victim, which they were 100%, but the grandchildren of high-ranking Nazis are not, you know, guilty, even not responsible of what their parents or grandparents did. They should take responsibility in order for history not to repeat itself. But the fact that they keep on feeling guilty, and you know, one example is when I was researching the Decent One and the Himmler diaries, I was trying to reach out to Himmler's daughter, who is very fond. She passed away 3 years ago, but she was very fond. She was very fond of her father. She had an organization supporting former Nazis. And I tried to find her, and there was this auction house in Munich, and I wanted to film at the auction because I hoped that she would be there that specific evening. But we all know that having a permission to film during an auction, whether it's Sotheby's or it's a private auction, you know, it's almost impossible because people who are buying, they don't want, you know, us to know. So I knew that 99.9% of the answer would be no. But I went to the auction house and I spoke with the owner. And the first thing he told me is, I am married to a colored woman. I am not right wing, but the answer is no. So before, you know, he feels so guilty about the history of his people that the first thing he told me was that the no he will tell me is not because, and I felt, you know, it touched me so much because I understood how, you know, how desperate we both are with this burden of history.
Right.
On either side you are coming. And again, not comparing, you know, the victims and the perpetrators, but as far as the second and third generation goes, we are, you know, both sides are victims, or both sides carry this huge, you know, this huge weight. And I hope that the dialogue will change, but it's very difficult because
Yes. Do you meet a lot those people who say the Holocaust didn't exist?
no. During, you know, after the Decent One, not a lot. With Speer, I don't know. You know, we are still in the beginning.
Yes.
We were in Telluride and in Budapest. No one, you know, said it or denied it. With Himmler, I did have in some universities in America, some students who stood up after during the Q&A and said, okay, we are willing to listen to you, but you first need to acknowledge that what the Nazi did to the Jews is what Israel is doing to Palestine. So it's not denying the Holocaust, but it's, so I'm, you know, trying.
So now going into the question of accountability, and how much we are accountable for our choices. What do you answer then?
That obviously I'm outraged by, you know, the remark, and that whatever my ideas are about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, one cannot compare. And it's not because one cannot compare that there are very problematic things happening in Israel and in Palestine. But the comparison, and it doesn't need to be a Holocaust to be something that we all should stand up for. You know, it's an injustice, it's problematic, it's even for, you know, for social injustices, for why is a kid from the South having less opportunities than a kid from, you know, the north of Tel Aviv. It's something that, you know, I believe one shall stand up for. it doesn't need to be the Holocaust to be atrocity. And the comparison is really, really disturbing because I think that it's very mediocre. There is nothing intelligent in such a question.
Right. It's like
In my-
nothing should be compared. I mean, you're completely right. Yeah, there's so many
And it
terrible
can be
things
very,
happening.
very-
but- yeah.
It can be very, very bad and terrible. It doesn't need to be compared.
Yeah, yeah. You know, one thing that struck me and showed me how much, I hate to say it, but this is the truth. At the end, Speer really didn't hesitate to show his vulnerability. You know, for example, when he came to say goodbye to Hitler, it really bothered him that Hitler didn't ask, "How is your wife?"
You know, I'm not sure whether it really bothered him. I think, no, the answer is that I agree that I, like you, believe that it bothered him, but it bothered him not because he cares about his wife or because he cares about the German people. It bothered him because Hitler didn't care about him, and
Yes.
everyone
Right.
shall care about Albert Speer. And I also think that this was part of his line of defense, that he understood when the war was definitely
gone,
lost.
right.
Right.
He understood he will get caught. He started this line of defense that he, unlike Hitler, cared about the German people. But he was really sad, and I believe him when he said that he even cried at night. But it's not because Hitler didn't care about his wife, it's because Hitler didn't care about him.
Yes.
Speer was worried about his position next to Hitler,
Yeah.
and that's all.
Yeah.
And
You know, I'm thinking about the parallel between being an architect and the whole Nazism machine. It's like, as an architect, you know, he comes in and he really decides how to shape and build every corner, right? And the fact that Hitler wanted to be an architect, I mean, there is something when you think, why, how come, it's almost like the way you think.
Hitler wanted to be an artist. I'm not sure he wanted to be an
I
architect.
think he wanted to
But
be an
you know,
architect.
to be an architect, which is a builder, and then to be in charge of the army destroying, the conflict is too big.
Well,
It's too big when
many
you come
times,
to it.
yeah, no, you don't think about it. You think about you building something new. That's what in the focus of your, you know, something
You know,
big
I-
and
it's very
new
interesting.
and wonderful. And, you know, you decide, you come to a family, you study the family, if you're a good architect, and then you think what's really will make them happy. It's almost like feeding what people need. I mean, I know I'm taking it a bit too far, but I
No,
feel
you take it in a bit too close, because when you build a home for a family, you go in and you do something very personal. He did monumental things. He built
Still,
a whole
yeah,
status of a
but you know,
nation.
yeah, but it's for the
It's-
nation. So
it's
you
much
you
bigger.
it's much bigger, but it's still he wanted to satisfy, you know, a nation. It's even much bigger aspiration, right?
I
Mhm.
agree
That
with
is
you.
kind of
And
slow.
I agree. I totally agree with you. And there is this moment in the film where, you know, Andrew is asking him, what was the average man supposed to feel? And he says, nothing. So his buildings were supposed to be, you know, a reflection of what he is, and nothing personal and
Right.
intimate. He didn't care about the average man. He even thought that by putting enough people in a closed space for enough time, then they will all think likewise, which is the, you know, the basis of fascism.
Yeah, yeah,
And this is what he wanted to reflect in his architecture.
right.
Vanessa, there's I want to go into one of the side effects, the extensions of the movie, because on the road, Tzipi, they had to face so many other projects in order to support this project, and one of them was to
The sound.
build the sound
Right.
of all the materials they
Can
had.
we
without
talk
it.
about it? Can we
So can we bring Tomer, please, so he can tell us exactly how it was done and how did you get to this result?
and tell us who is
Tomer.
Tomer, and if you'll tell us who is Tomer.
Tomer will introduce himself.
Okay.
Hi, Tomer.
You don't need the glasses.
Tomer, please tell us who you are, what are you doing, and then you'll tell us how you did it and what happened.
Great. So I'm Tomer Eliav. I'm the sound designer, and I produced the film with Vanessa together. First, thanks
Without
for having
Tomer,
me.
there wouldn't be a film. Just, you know,
True.
That's very
So,
gracious to say it, yeah.
the truth.
No. She's
Come on. We
exaggerating.
know
You're a strong team. Keep going.
Yeah, we're working good together, I can
Yeah.
tell. Look, the concept started at a decent one. And when we had all these sources, a decent one, the footage sources, we spent many days and nights to think how to bring this footage to the big screen. And we had this a main issue that usually there is a way that people look at documentaries. Most of the documentaries, it's talking head. You had this, scholars, people that know the subject, that tell their opinion, and they actually tell you what to think and where to go and how to watch the film. Vanessa and myself, we knew that this is not the way that we wanted to approach the story. We want to bring up the facts, okay? We want to bring and to find everything that we brought from the research, put it on the screen on the most realistic way, and let the viewers decide what they want to decide, let them think what they want to think. This is on one hand. On the other hand, we want that the viewers not look at the film. We want them to be in the middle of the scene. Okay, so if we are, I don't know, in Munich in 1930, so we want the viewer to be in the middle of the scene, hear exactly everything that's happening there, the sound of the cars, the wind, I don't know, the people that talked, and this is how it's supposed to be. The
Like in Hollywood approach, in many ways.
It's more
They
than Hollywood.
construct a lot of the sound, they many times
You know, I think it's, it's a very, very deep question. I'm not sure it's a Hollywood approach.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But to be at the moment, it's more
see-
to be in the moment, you need to be surrounded by the different nuances.
But Tzipi, you and us know that in the streets of Munich, there was sound and
Yes.
the trees were green.
Yes.
It's only because of either economical reasons or technological reasons that it was not recorded, or that it was recorded and the soundtrack is just in another archive than the
Tzipi, I
35
tell
million.
you why it's confusing. It's confusing because you're right. When we're doing a sound design for feature film, of course, we are dubbing, recordings, Foley's, voiceovers, everything else. But again, in documentaries, it's like the psychological effect that if someone see like black and white pictures, it's mean old,
Yeah.
But
No,
it doesn't
you
really
find it
like
right
that.
to be at the moment, to make me be at the moment, at the situation. I think it's,
So the two
It's
main points
different.
for us, So the two main points for us was that we are restoring every frame, to put the audience in the middle of the scene, and we are not tell someone how to think or what to think. We're just bringing the facts.
you even went to the extent of trying to use a sound in a perspective. You know what I mean?
Look, yeah, I think so, but in Speer, the narrative is very complicated because we are talking about 3 different timelines.
Yes.
We have the 70s where they are writing the script, We have the war, of course, the war,
Warriors.
the warriors, and we have the Nuremberg trials. Okay, so these three narratives from editing point of view are winding in between, like along the movie, and it's very, very complicated narrative. And think about,
And you had to do the same with the sound.
yeah,
Intertwine
exactly.
those
So for
three.
example, think about the composer, about
wanted
our
to ask
great friend Frank Ilfman. He need to score, you know, the picture. Now, in certain points, usually they score the picture. Here, in certain points, he need to score the dialogue. So he need to score the dialogue, and the pictures show something else. So it was very,
Can you explain
so,
it a little bit?
yeah, because if we are now at the 70s, okay, at the first timeline,
Yeah.
and at the 17 is like a big Hollywood film, because Speer want to, you know, he want to leave his legacy as a big Hollywood film, you know, that will stay for generations. So it's a huge score, and suddenly he's talking about a scene, but he's not telling really the truth, right? He's like he's writing the scene from his point of view, not exactly.
You're talking about subjective, almost subjective music,
Yeah.
like it's unbelievable. My God.
Subjective in the mind of Speer, but
Yeah.
subjective for us.
Exactly.
Wow.
So
That's-
now you see
that's genius.
horrible. You see this horrible footage, you know, of the war, but Speer is rewriting history, and it's supposed to be a huge Hollywood score.
Right.
So sometimes the score is
Like almost a counterpoint to what we know.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
almost like a counterpoint to what we know.
And
It's
a good
amazing.
example is the Stalingrad scene, because you see people slowly but surely dying, German people, and the winter and everything is difficult, but Speer is, you know, he's getting more and more workers and more power. So the music is going with Speer and not with the difficult image that
You have a
he
great
has.
faith in the audience intelligence. You really, you really, you really trust your audience to get it even.
Look,
But even if they don't get it rationally, it's zipping sometimes.
The way it's built, it lends. And that's why I think many people don't feel comfortable, because they get it.
That's what
and
happened
they
in
don't feel
counterpoint.
comfortable.
Yeah, that's what you feel in the
And
counterpoint.
you don't feel comfortable when we put you in the middle of the scene, you know, and we like build like all the sound world, you know, and get to every sound frame, you know, and you hear everything, and you feel everything, and you hear the steps, and you hear the car, and everything is 100% accurate. Okay, so if we have I don't know, a Mercedes car from the 35, so we search all over Germany to find exactly model that the engine will sound like.
And Tomer sent a sound recorder, you know, somewhere near Munich to record this specific car and the opening and closing of the door.
Exactly.
You are like Kurosawa. Kurosawa couldn't make films for 9 years. He was sitting in his room and he was painting in oil. He had a full script, painting in oil, every frame, every character. And it was like, you know, a war scene, so there were a lot of soldiers. He even painted the shoes of the last soldier at the background. So, you know, it's genius. Not many people can not only think about it, you know, I'm going to, it's going to go with me. Thank you.
I think with Speer, they really masterminded even much more than in Himmler. But it was much more complicated because it spoke on many levels.
We don't have time for that, but you know, it's really because I'm dealing a lot with subjective camera. So if your character cannot express itself, how can we use the camera to take over the character emotion? And for some reason, I call it subjective camera. But you're talking about something which actually much more sophisticated in the sound.
Yeah, and you need to think that the sound goes along with the picture. So
Yes.
We did a huge restoration, restoration on the picture. And in restoration, you need to know exactly how much to restore, because you reach certain point that if you continue to clean the picture,
It will be distorted.
It looks exactly.
Yeah, you lose details.
You will distort it. This is so accurate, and same goes
But
to
the
the sound.
brightness
Yes.
of the scene is
Become
totally
metal
different.
thing.
Yeah,
Metallic.
yeah, and the brightness of the sound totally depend on how much you restore the picture. So
Yes.
it's
This
like
is
parallel.
really unbelievable, painstaking, you know? Wow.
Guys, you're coming to New York now, and the opening of the film is next week. What kind of journey you plan for Speer? Where do you take him?
First, we are very, very exciting. We're looking forward for the opening, the film forum, like it's.
And for the New York Times writing about it.
Yeah,
This
we
is
hope so.
a little, very much looking forward. A little.
I read it every
anxious.
morning, so I will see it.
You
Let's hope.
basically complete his wishes, Speer's
Yes.
wishes.
Wow,
So,
wow.
yes, this is
You just get brought with the chills.
but a double journey. That's why I'm asking, what are your plans? Because it depends how you present it, to whom, and what are you going to do with this?
The plans are, to enjoy the theatrical release in New York and in Los Angeles, and of course to try and bring the film to the widest possible audience, to reach universities, to do as many Q&As as possible, to travel the world, from the world, and from the micro.
You should get to the universities.
University, exactly. I just spoke with Roger Berkovich from the Hannah Arendt Center at Bard University.
NYU also have, different departments who can pick it up and organize a screening.
Would love to, at the end of the day, the prestige and the festivals and the openings are for us, a moment, a dream. Those
You
moments.
also have Annette Insdorf who can help you a lot. Annette Insdorf.
She knows her well.
She moderated
Yes, she always does Telluride, but she's at
Right.
Columbia, and I'm sure she can do something with Columbia also.
How long it's going to be in film form?
Excuse me?
How long it's going to be in film form?
2-3 weeks.
It's opening on the 29th for 2 weeks, and then depending on
Yes, it's always like this.
People who will come and see, and then on November 5th it's opening at the Laemmle Royal in Los Angeles.
So that means that we are qualifying for the Oscar run, and we started our campaign like 2 days
That's
ago.
a lot of work to campaign for the Oscar, American Oscar.
Right. But, look,
we'll give it a shot.
We are dreamers. We are dreamers,
Yeah, but you bring it to reality. So first of all, we want to wish you lots of luck.
Yeah.
And then what next? Are you taking a break from these people for a while, Vanessa?
Hopefully.
I hope that in 6 days there won't be someone coming to me and telling me that audio or video or writing.
I think he already knows that you're waiting for him.
I hope.
There's somebody in the corner who'll just wait for the right moment to come and say, do you have any plans? I have something for you. Listen, you know me, I'm a Holocaust girl in a way, and I just amazed by what you do. And I don't speak just, it's important and we should, I also speak about the way you do, not only the what, but the how. And of course, the why is so clear, but I don't know, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
I thank you.
Such
a compliment.
And thank you for teaching me about subjective sound. I'm on sabbatical, but otherwise I would invite you to talk to my students. But if you'll be here next semester, I think it's something nobody ever talked about, subjective sound. unbelievable.
I love to do it. I love to do it. I do it a lot here in Israel with students, with so yeah, of course.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Guys, thank
Tzili.
you.
Tzili, thank you. And thank
And
you
thank
guys.
you, everybody. And
Everybody.
we'll see you
Next
next
week.
week.